It was a Tuesday morning. I was going through a bunch of emails which I got. Well, some of them were from my colleagues, some of them from our customers, some of them from our founders, and some of them were general promotional emails. It was about 90 minutes of me going through more than 20 emails. And after that, when I stepped out, I just couldn't remember who sent me which email. And that troubled me because I've been working in marketing, I've been building brands, and if I do not know who sent me something, then that means there's some problem. And like everyone else, the first thing that I did was to take the blame on me that maybe my attention span has just gone down. It's the internet effect. Everybody has been talking about it that we have a dolphin brain. Sorry, not dolphin, goldfish brain. And I thought, okay, now I am the new victim, the next victim of this. But then after that, I spoke to my colleagues that, hey, are you also experiencing the same thing? I just couldn't remember who sent me what. And they had ready-made answers. One person said, this is what internet does to you. Reassuring, of course, this is what I thought. And the other guy, he said, dude, that's all AI. And that's what got me thinking, what? Is it AI that's making me dumb? Is it AI that's taking away my retention? And I thought, no, technology shouldn't be able to do this. And then I wanted to understand why this is happening. And I started looking at how models work, how this AI is working in the first place. Now, if you pick up any large language model, or if you pick up a platform like ChatGPT, Perplexity, well, before that, by a show of hands, how many of you have ever used ChatGPT or any other AI content generation tool? People who have used it more than once? Awesome. Now, if you just in a very layman language, when a tool is trained on all of web data, and by your experience, all of the writing on the internet is not high quality. So if something is trained on substandard data, can you imagine what is the kind of output that you will get? But the reality is much more deeper. It's not just that AI is trained to give you substandard information. AI is trained to give you statistically more probable explanation. For instance, up to a couple of months ago, everything on LinkedIn started with this one line: exciting news. How many of you remember that? Every post was an exciting news. And if you just go through it, nothing exciting was happening. Now, with that, what happens is, what this model was doing, that model was trained to give you the most probable answer, something that many people were talking about, and that's what you will get. This led me to thinking that while I don't remember who sent me what email, it's also true that I do not retain brands anymore. I don't know if there is a new brand in the market. Brands is not just about the logo that you have or who is the face of your brand. Brands are the communication, the language that you speak, the post that you put up, the reel. Every piece of content that you put out is a brand. It doesn't matter if you're a marketer, if you're a student and you're trying to be better. The kind of essays that you will write, the way in which you will talk to your teachers, the way you will interact with people, that's what your brand is. And these days, because everything sounds the same, there's no brand which is coming up. Now, a deeper reality to this is that why this is happening is because every piece of content that you do, whether in school you're writing an essay, or you're writing an exam, or you're putting up a post on the internet, it is being measured against the same metrics. One of the most popular metric to be measured these days is volume. How much of this can you do? Another thing is, how much grammatically right can you get? Can you get all your apostrophes and commas at the right place? Now, because of this, what happens is, now everybody who sends me an email or every content that I read is just perfect. And now there is no differentiation in it. And hence I cannot remember. Everything looks just the same. Now, in our pursuit to perfect our language through using these AI tools, what has happened is everything that gives that piece of content your personality or your voice is gone. The way you relate with a topic, the grammatical mistake that you often do. I'm sure there are a lot of educators and professionals out here. Up until 5 years ago, if you looked at a notebook or an essay from a student, without knowing the name, you would know who wrote this essay. Because for a while you've been reading, you know how this person writes, how this person talks. Similarly, if you get a text from somebody, you would know who sent it just by reading the language. But now everything is polished. Everything that made it yours is now gone. There was an interesting experiment. Well, it wasn't planned, it just happened. In 2023, Italy banned ChatGPT for a while. Can you imagine? What would happen if we banned ChatGPT right now again for all of us? I'm sure a lot of us are doomed. But what happened with this thing was, researchers studied the content pre-ban, during the ban, and post-ban. And what they figured out was that suddenly during the ban period, the content became more diverse. 10 people talking about the same topic used a different set of words and it had a personality. Now, that does not mean that suddenly all of us became creative. It's just that when we stopped using the same set of tools and stopped measuring ourselves against the same metrics of volume, how polished you are, your immediate engagement rates. When we stop measuring ourselves against this, our content becomes more diverse, and as a result, what happens is your content is more likely to be remembered. When I use the term content, I'm using it a little loosely to mean anything like what I'm talking here, maybe the conversation that you do with your friends, everything is content. So when there is diversity, people start remembering it. Now, with this experiment which happened, uh, because people could notice that the content done without AI looked more diverse, this was also backed by, so this, okay, I always struggle to name this scientist. I know there's some people studying psychology here, you would know Mr. Von Restorff. It's called Mr. Von Restorff effect. He says, we don't remember what blends in, we remember what stands out. And if everything sounds same, and if everything sounds smooth, your brain would just skip it. See, on a deeper level, we would remember things when the writer has really put his heart and soul into the content. When he has really struggled with the words, when he has really put his thoughts to figuring out what should I emphasize on, what should I keep, and what not to keep, that is what which will give it a personality, and that is when even you as a reader would enjoy it. Now, there's another study done by MIT, and it's called Your Brain on ChatGPT. Very interesting one. The study reveals that people using AI this was done on ChatGPT users, but people using AI remember less of what they have written or what they have composed. Now just think about it. If you as the creator or the author remember very little about what you have done, and you expect your readers, your audience to retain it, wouldn't it be injustice to them? Well, that's exactly what has happened. Now, a good piece of writing should actually be engineered by a writer. Again, being a psychologist, again, this has a name. It's called the generation effect. We remember ideas when we struggle to create them ourselves, when we struggle to blend them ourselves. So we would remember a sentence very clearly if somebody else said it in a way in which we won't say it. But with a lot of use of AI, what has happened is everyone is using that same pool of vocabulary, getting out the same piece of content, and hence, we are not able to differentiate between a good content or a bad content. In fact, interestingly, when I reached out to people asking them what do they feel about AI content, everybody said the same thing, that it looks good, it's polished, it's right. But after 10 minutes, you ask them, hey, what did you read? And then you will know their retention has just gone down because 10 other previous articles or posts just look the same. And well, this is where we are headed. And this is something which makes me think about that and again, I feel very strongly about it, that retention is not a people problem. It's not your audience's problem. Retention is the job of a writer, is the job of the creator to ensure that when he puts his heart and soul into a piece of content, it should reach the audience. Well, people do ask me that, Himanshu, you feel very strongly about people using AI in content. Don't you use it? Well, I do. There are kinds of content where you do rely on AI. At times you decide not to. But at this moment, I really don't have an answer. I don't know what's the next phase of humanity is going to look like when everybody starts sounding just right, just correct, and just polished. We as humans have got this great ability to communicate, we take pride in our ability to use language. And if that is something we are losing, it's something to think about. Well, in the end, I would just like to say that I am Himanshu Saxena and I'm done with using words that do not mean anything to me. Thank you.